Today we profile the Honorable President Gerald R. Ford, our nation's 38th president, the only person to serve as president without winning an election for president or vice president, Michigan's president, the model of a public servant. Gerald Ford was born on July 14, 1913, in Omaha, Nebraska, to Dorothy Ayer and Gerald Ford Sr. When Ford was just 18 months old, his parents divorced and his mother remarried to a man named Leslie King. Ford's stepfather adopted him, and Gerald became known as Gerald Ford Jr. The early instability in Ford's family life contributed to his strong work ethic and commitment to public service later in life. Ford was an outstanding student, excelling academically and athletically. He attended the University of Michigan, where he played center and linebacker for the school's football team and helped the Wolverines to 2 undefeated seasons and national titles in 1932 and 1933. In his senior year of 1934, the team suffered a steep decline and won only 1 game. But Ford was still the team's star player. Before state events, President Ford often had the Navy band play the University of Michigan fight song, The Victors, instead of Hail to the Chief. After graduation, he went on to Yale Law School, where he earned his law degree in 1941. The discipline, teamwork, and leadership skills Ford developed during his college and athletic years would serve him well in his later political career. Ford's transition from law school to public service was soon interrupted by World War II after the bombing of Pearl Harbor in 1941. Ford enlisted in the U.S. Navy, serving as a lieutenant commander in the Pacific Theater. His military service earned him several honors, and it was during this time that Ford developed a deep sense of duty and responsibility for his country. Following the war, Ford returned to Michigan and entered the political arena, seeking a congressional seat. In 1948, he was elected to represent Michigan's 5th congressional district as a Republican, a position he would hold for the next 25 years. Ford's tenure in the U.S. House of Representatives was marked by his reputation as a moderate, pragmatic, and ethical politician. He quickly earned respect amongst his colleagues, serving in various leadership positions and playing a role in shaping national policy on key issues including defense, social security, and fiscal responsibility. Ford described his philosophy as a moderate in domestic affairs, an internationalist in foreign affairs, and a conservative in fiscal policy. In 1963, President Lyndon Johnson appointed Ford to the Warren Commission, a special task force set up to investigate the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. Ford was assigned to prepare a biography of accused assassin Lee Harvey Oswald. In the preface of his book, A Presidential Legacy in the Warren Commission, Ford defended the work of the commission and reiterated his support of its conclusions. In 1973, President Richard Nixon, facing growing pressure from the Watergate scandal, found himself in need of a new vice president after Spiro T. Agnew resigned due to a corruption scandal. Nixon's choice for the vacant position was Gerald Ford. Ford was known as a steady, reliable figure who could help restore public trust in the administration. His nomination was confirmed by the U.S. Senate, and Ford became our nation's 40th vice president. Ford's time as vice president was brief, but it proved pivotal in his political trajectory. He was thrust into the national spotlight, especially as the Watergate scandal unfolded. and his relationship with Nixon became central to the public's perception of his character. Ford was seen as a figure of integrity, in stark contrast to the growing corruption accusations surrounding Nixon's administration. In August 1974, amid escalating pressure from the Watergate scandal, Richard Nixon became the first U.S. president to resign from office.
I shall resign the presidency.
Gerald Ford, as vice president, was sworn as the 38th
Vice President
President
Ford
of the United States
will be
on
sworn
August
in as
9,
president
1974.
in this office.
His ascension to the presidency was a unique moment in American history, as it marked the first time a president had been replaced in this manner. Ford's presidency began in the shadow of the Watergate scandal. The nation was deeply divided, with many questioning the integrity of their political leaders and institutions. In an effort to heal the wounds of Watergate and restore the country's trust in its government, Ford made the controversial decision to grant a presidential pardon to Richard Nixon for his role in the Watergate scandal.
My concern is the immediate future of this great country. I do believe with all my heart and mind and spirit that I, not as president, but as a humble servant of God, will receive justice without mercy if I fail to show mercy. Now, therefore, I, Gerald R. Ford, President of the United States, pursuant to the pardon power conferred upon me by Article 2, Section 2 of the Constitution, have granted, and by these presents do grant, a full, free, and absolute pardon unto Richard Nixon for all offenses against the United States which he, Richard Nixon, has committed or may have committed.
While the pardon was widely criticized by some, including members of his own party, Ford defended his decision as necessary to move the country forward and avoid prolonged political turmoil. The pardon remains one of the most debated decisions in American political history. President Ford famously declared, "Our long national nightmare is over." Ford faced significant domestic and international challenges during his presidency. The U.S. economy was struggling with high inflation and unemployment, a condition later known as stagflation. Despite his best efforts to combat these issues, including proposing tax cuts and budget reductions, Ford's policies were unable to fully resolve the economic difficulties, which contributed to his lack of popular support. One of Ford's notable achievements in foreign policy was his efforts to ease tensions between the U.S. and the Soviet Union. He engaged in significant arms control negotiations, culminating in the signing of the Helsinki Accords in 1975, which aimed to improve relations between Eastern and Western Europe and promote human rights. Ford's presidency was marked by the constant challenge of rebuilding public confidence in the government, but his efforts were not enough to win the 1976 election. In a bitter contest, Ford narrowly lost to the Democratic challenger Jimmy Carter, who ran on a platform of change and restoring trust to the White House. Ford's loss was attributed to various factors, including lingering dissatisfaction over his pardon of Nixon, the economic situation, and a desire for a fresh start in American politics. Ford was the target of 2 assassination attempts during his presidency. After leaving the presidency, Ford returned to a private life, though he remained active in political and public affairs. He became a respected elder statesman, offering advice on national and international issues. Ford's post-presidency years were years marked by a focus on humanitarian causes, education, and promoting the values of democracy and good governance. Ford passed away on December 26, 2006, at the age of 93. Here are a few quotes by the Honorable President Gerald R. Ford. Tell the truth, work hard, and come to dinner on time. There are no adequate substitutes for father, mother, and children bound together in a loving commitment to nurture and protect. No government, no matter how well-intentioned, can take the place of the family in the scheme of things. A government big enough to give you everything you want is a government big enough to take from you everything you have. Truth is the glue that holds government together. History and experience tell us that moral progress comes not in comfortable and complacent times, but out of trial and confusion. In May of 2000, I attended a fundraising dinner and heard that President Ford would be in attendance. I wrote a letter asking him to write me his philosophy of life. I saw him sitting by himself, approached him, gave him the letter, and asked him if he would consider my request. He read the letter, turned it over, and wrote this. May 22nd, 2000. To be successful, a vision, a plan, and the will to carry it out, combining integrity and hard work. Gerald R. Ford. Ford's legacy as a leader is often seen through the lens of his character. His decency, his commitment to the rule of law, and his dedication to doing what he believed was best for the country, even when it was politically unpopular. Today, Gerald Ford stands as a figure who navigated one of the most turbulent periods in American history with grace and steadfastness, contributing to the political and moral restoration of the nation after Watergate. His life and leadership continue to serve as a model for future generations of public service. That's the story of the Honorable President Gerald R. Ford. Thank you for watching. If you enjoy these messages of inspiration and hope, please like, subscribe, and/or share them with family and friends. Until we meet again, please remember, with God, anything is possible. Small.